Today I want to talk about a few different updates around the exciting prospect of multiple different Xbox first-party games coming to Nintendo Switch going forward. And if you've been around on the channel for a while, we've talked at length about what the Activision Blizzard merger means for Nintendo Switch users at the end of the day, because you might already be familiar with the fact that there is a signed legal 10-year deal in place following the closure of that merger that says Microsoft will indeed be bringing Call of Duty games to Nintendo platforms for the next 10 years. Well, then there was a small piece of news that Banjo might be coming back to Xbox platforms sometime soon, and we didn't talk about that here on the channel, but I think that that's obviously going to be in the conversation of a first-party Xbox title making it to Switch. And besides that, we now have yet another acclaimed in the Game of the Year conversation title that is being claimed to come to Nintendo Switch platforms this calendar year in 2024, and we have to get on the same page with all of those details. And before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, we first have to hop over to VGC, where you can see the following detailed typed up article, which reads: an acclaimed Xbox game will go multi-platform this year, it's claimed. The title was reportedly in the Game of the Year conversation in the year that it released. That's according to the Nate the Hate podcast, a show which often breaks stories involving the games industry. The show did not name which title is allegedly coming to competing platforms, but noted that it was in the Game of the Year conversation in the year that it was released. In the calendar year of 2024, Microsoft will bring one of their more acclaimed first-party games to a competitor's system, the show claimed. The title I'm referring to was met with high critical acclaim, fans loved it, and it was in the Game of the Year conversation in the year that it was released. Nate added, when the announcement comes, I think it will be met with a lot of excitement because it's a quality game. Now, many online began to speculate what the game in question might actually be, and many people were guessing that it could be Hi-Fi Rush, and it now sounds like we have more or less loose confirmation from a leaker that has gotten things right before, specifically around the Persona series, that it is indeed Hi-Fi Rush, and that's what we should be expecting to come to Nintendo Switch specifically, not just competitor platform, meaning it could be PS5. If you look at Microsoft and Nintendo's relationship, they obviously work a lot closer together nowadays than Microsoft and Sony, as they are viewing each other more as direct threats to their bottom line and so on. But you can see this post over on Our Gaming Leaks and Rumors, which reads: Microsoft leaker seemingly confirmed Hi-Fi Rush is coming to Switch. The same user who had good info on Persona and Atlas related to Xbox in the past. They are responding to a post, Hi-Fi Rush available on Switch, I'll bet, and they respond with, and you'll win. So this is personally exciting news for me. I do own an Xbox Series X, but I haven't given a ton of time to Hi-Fi Rush. I briefly booted it up when it was being talked about, and I could definitely see myself getting hooked into the gameplay loop, but I have not experienced it in full, and I do think that it is the perfect fit for not only the Nintendo Switch user base, but also just for that portable play factor that we all love as Switch gamers. If you want to sit down on the couch and have it in handheld mode while you're watching something else on the TV, you can now do that. If you want to take it on the go with you when you're traveling, you can now do that. And if you want to dock it and have it on a more big screen experience, you can do that as well. And what we don't know is whether or not this game is set to release on the current generation of Switch consoles we have today, which according to this leaker, it claims that it is. And I do think Microsoft will want to bring it over to that 130 plus million user base that's on the existing family of Switch consoles today. But it could also be in the conversation to be released on the next gen platform that we are expecting to be announced and released this year, and you might get an upgrade in frame rate and resolution in that case. So we'll have to wait and see when this announcement takes place. It seems like something that would be perfect at a February Nintendo Direct, maybe their summertime Direct if it's something that's planned a little bit further out. But there's even rumors circulating online of an Xbox Developer Direct the week of January 14th, and could Xbox actually be the one to reveal this and say it's coming to Nintendo Switch? That doesn't seem like Nintendo's style, and I would be surprised if it is there as a Switch game, but I do think that when the time is right, we should expect Hi-Fi Rush to be announced for Nintendo Switch and potentially even the next gen system, and that only furthers this conversation about Nintendo and Microsoft working together hand in hand in terms of game releases. And I don't think that we'll get everything first party Microsoft, but I do think we will continue to see a lot of support from Xbox and studios on Nintendo Switch specifically and the next gen console. And now that they own Activision Blizzard, they're literally like the largest collection of game studios out there in the industry today. And so that is a very important relationship for third-party games for Nintendo fans like you and me to have that kind of support. I'm not the biggest fan of Call of Duty, but the fact that those games are going to be in the pipeline for the next 10 years on Nintendo consoles is just a win for the platform, in my opinion. I also think that portable play factor with a game like Call of Duty is a really exciting prospect. And you might remember at the beginning of the video, I mentioned there was another piece of news around a Banjo game that we haven't talked about on the channel here yet. And while this is not in any way, shape, or form confirmed to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, I also do think that if this project is indeed real and it's greenlit as this report claims, that it would make more sense in the world than almost any other Microsoft IP to also release on Nintendo Switch, because of course we know and love Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie from the N64 era, and we have Banjo Kazooie playable on NSO currently, which did require Microsoft to sign off on. Also GoldenEye, also Jet Force Gemini. They clearly are okay with bringing over their classic Rare released games to Nintendo hardware, and I don't think there's a reason that this new game wouldn't also want to be sold to a broader audience on Nintendo hardware. As you can see this article, which reads, "Insider claims a Banjo Kazooie game has been greenlit." A new Banjo Kazooie game could well be on its way if the latest online rumor is correct. Industry insider Nate Drake has claimed the project is currently in active development and was greenlit by Microsoft sometime early last year. Development on the project seems to be in early stages, and it is not clear which studio will be handling the new Banjo Kazooie game, as it is reasonably unlikely to be Rare. As always, this is a rumor, so please take it with a grain of salt. And you can then see the exact post in question over on Fammy Boards, which reads, "What happened to that Banjo game? Cancelled, I guess?" And Nate Drake responds, "It's still an active project, but it didn't get the green light until early last year. There is a lot to do, and development can change a lot, abandoned ideas, internal reboots, etc." So it sounds like the return for Banjo games are a little ways off yet, and we shouldn't expect any kind of announcement anytime soon realistically, but you do have a very exciting studio that could be handling this now instead of Rare, because I don't know about you guys with Banjo nuts and bolts, but it never really grabbed me from a gameplay perspective, and I almost wonder what a fresh studio could do with this IP, such as Toys for Bob, that is now under Microsoft Gaming Studios via the Activision Blizzard merger, and that's a very exciting prospect for a studio that could be developing this game. Of course, this merger is just now wrapping up, and it sounds like this thing was greenlit last year and in development last year, so it very well may not be them, but could they collaborate and come in and really add in some of their own ideas? It's definitely a possibility at this point. So if you're a fan of the Crash series and Spyro, amongst many other Toys for Bob games, you might be more interested in them being at least somewhat involved in this project if they're not the lead studio behind it. But I do think that with Microsoft and Nintendo's continued working relationship, that likely a lot of these games will end up on Nintendo platforms, and it's really not anything new. We already have the Ori games, we have Minecraft, amongst many others. That Microsoft's broader strategy is to go multi-platform because they just really care that you're playing their games and hopefully signing up for Game Pass at some point in time, as opposed to being locked into their console ecosystem. They care a little bit less about that compared to Nintendo and Sony. So as we talk about 2024 unfolding, the prospect of more powerful Nintendo hardware and even more support from third-party game studios, and Microsoft putting some of their first-party stuff onto Nintendo platforms, potentially on more capable hardware, and even getting a Call of Duty releasing probably towards the end of 2024 this year on a Nintendo platform, that is very exciting to me. But that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions on these new claims. Do you think that we will see Hi-Fi Rush released at some point this year as it's being claimed on Nintendo Switch hardware? Do you think there's a chance that it's a cross-gen title and we actually get a release on the current family of systems, but also support for the next-gen systems? Do you want to see Banjo return, and who would you like to work on that from a game studio perspective? And when it is finally announced, do you think we will see a Nintendo Switch, or at that point in time, Switch 2 logo at the bottom? And finally, where do you think Microsoft and Nintendo's working relationship goes from here? Do you think we see more and more support for Xbox first-party exclusive games also being released on Nintendo hardware, but potentially not Sony? Or do you think there might be one-off situations, but for the most part, Microsoft will still want to keep a big chunk of their own library first-party exclusive to their own hardware? But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.